Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca. This is the Vaughn SLR 2 Pro Carbon pad review. There will be a blocker review as well, so check out that video. There will not be a catcher review because this isn't really an SLR2. It's an SLR. It looks like an SLR2, but it is an LT98 internal, so there's no point reviewing it because it's not an SLR2. First, I guess about this set. This is a demo set that Vaughn was sending out if you're about 35-inch pad size. They're Matt Murray's. They are from when he played for Team Canada for the World Championships, I believe in 2019 World Championships. These are the set he wore, which is why the logos are blacked out, because Vaughn doesn't pay licensing fees for IIHF. So these pads are slightly different than some. I'll go into the details for them. These are a 35 plus 2.5. So they're a bit taller than, I guess I should actually put this one up. They're a bit taller than my Vapors by like 0.5 of an inch, and they look the same because my Vapors are a bit straighter. But wearing them, that difference right there does make a difference. I noticed them just a little bit too tall for me in terms of like that 0.5. I would just get a normal 0.2 on them, and they would be pretty much perfect. So the pads. The difference between this pad and a stock Vaughn pad or SLR2 pad is evidently this is a bit stiffer, and and these are tighter, I believe. These are very tight, so I wore them as loose as possible because I wasn't a fan of it. I think this is slightly tighter as well. But besides that, it's pretty close to stock from what I've been told. These are Vaughn's stiff pad. They're not stiff. So they're not stiff. The boot is pretty soft too. Everything about this pad is pretty soft. This does have the carbon fiber in it. These are the Pro Carbons. But yeah, they're also not super reboundy. They're more than the V8 that I reviewed a few weeks ago, or about a month ago, but they're nothing compared to Bauer's and my JRZ in terms of rebounds. Probably a little bit less than Optik's as well. Now, this is also a thicker pad, and a lot of people are talking about the thickness of pads and how like CCM's new pads are thinner. Thickness doesn't matter. You can have a thick pad, and you can still have a soft core, or you can have a stiffer core and a thinner pad like JRZ. It doesn't really affect weight that much because it depends on how much foams you actually use and what type of foams. The stiffer the foams like the JRZs, and you have heavier weight. So the thickness doesn't really matter all that much. It's what's actually on the inside. With that said, this is how thick they are. So the big, I feel like these pads have changed quite a bit compared to the SLR1 that I reviewed. Unfortunately, I don't have a pair of SLR1s, so I can't do a side-by-side comparison. With that said, people have been talking about this Quickslide and said that it is better than Brian's Primo. And originally, I didn't believe them. And I actually wore a demo set of these like 4 months ago, like right when they came out, and I wasn't that impressed with them. But I didn't get a lot of time with them. I only got about 10 minutes with them. I never got them in a game, and it was in a really crappy kind of situation. The ice was terrible. So there's people who were saying that the Quickslide is better than the Primo. You're right. And I was wrong, and I apologize for doubting you. Sometimes you have to use things to figure it out. These are simply the best sliding pads I have ever worn. These are better than Optiks. These are better than my Genetics. These are better than any of my Bauer ones. These are better than everything. I don't know what Vaughn did with this material. It sort of feels a bit more slippery than the Primo is. Whatever they did a really good job on it. And these things slide like I'm gonna have a clip thrown in here of me sliding around where I overslid. And because it takes a bit of getting used to. I had problems with these where I'd go in the reverse VH, I'd put all my weight against the post, and the pad would slide out under me just from me putting weight against the post. So you really got to get used to that. Kudos to Vaughn, like huge kudos to this. These are ridiculously impressive. And in the past, I said that the Primo and Brian's pads, like the Optik slide, slid better than Bauer's do in perfect ice, and then Bauer's slide better like once the ice gets chippy. And I still stand behind that. These just slide better in all circumstances. When the ice is terrible at the end of the game, I checked it out. It was actually at the end of my second game in a row with these pads, and I checked it out and slid, and I was still like, oh, like I had to slow down basically. I was amazed at how well these slide, and that's a serious compliment to Vaughn in that sense. Like, awesome job on these, and they deserve a ton of credit. So I guess we'll talk about the side right here. And since we're here, so the design here, this is a pretty interesting way about going about this. You can see this kind of gap here. So you have this harder piece right here, the gap, and then you have your calf wedge. The stability on these was really good. I had no issues whatsoever. So I don't know what the reasoning behind this was. Maybe less area to hit the ice with. It works really well. So good job. This is nice and hard that you slide on. And then I think the biggest change I saw, and the thing I like about these pads compared to the V8s or the Velocity line, is this is all one piece. So this is all one piece all the way through. So the thigh rise seal is really good. That was one of the things I was complaining about on the VE8s, was that the thigh rise comes up. This doesn't, and this is phenomenal. Like, this is really nice. And I'll get more to that a little bit later. One area that I wish they did a bit different is right here. This nylon binding is wet from me using it. I wish this was covered a bit more. I do like how they use the Primo or Quickslide, down here for a wear spot. The one thing I also don't like is how they don't use the Quickslide for the wear on the top and the bottom like Brian's does. I think they should have used that here. I'm sure you can get that as an option. It's just not stock on this. So that's kind of bums me out there. The other thing that bums me out a bit is, so these came with skate lace. Now the Pro Return pads, the stock ones come with a kind of a bungee cord like this. But the connector strap is a piece of carbon that is like, it seems like it's left over from the pad, and they kind of cut holes in it, and it has like a clip that you clip into it. It's super annoying to do up, and I hate it. Whenever I showed people these pads, the Pro Carbons, like the retail one, it was a huge pain. The non-Pro Carbons, this piece wasn't carbon fiber, it was like rubber, and it was great. So why don't you just stick to the rubber one? I get that you're trying to show off the carbon fiber. The rubber one works way better. Stick to it. But honestly, Velcro, this is the way to go. It works. It's not annoying to use. It's a great idea. Use it. I suggest they stick with that. I guess we'll look at the strapping now. So I'll kind of move this one out of the way. So I talked about that strapping. Bottom, you can see the Primo wear here. Nash on the boot, which is more of a traditional design. I would probably go with whole nylon if I made a choice there, but it is a kind of a little bit more luxurious. Vaughn uses this air mesh all out through it. So the straps here are kind of interesting. This one it's like the leather, but it's stretchy. Huge fan of this design. This goes behind the heel. That's how Matt Murray wears it. This one is movable, so you can take it out here and put it a bit lower. I wouldn't use a bootstrap, so I wouldn't put these on my pads because this is not removable. I can't remember what the retail one is here, so I'm sorry about that. I do know that the non-Pro Carbons have this really stupid, it's like a buckle. It's like a thing that you slide through and you close it down. Awful. I like what Vaughn does with straps like this and the Professor strap and how it's like stretchy, but sometimes they go a little too far, like I mentioned on the VE8 pads with the magnetic straps. Sometimes it's just too much. The way the non-Pro Carbons are is a little bit too much, so I would pull back. They did add this lower calf strap right here, and I have a feeling this was because of pros. And the reason I say that, a lot of NHL goalies right now who are wearing like E-Flex 4s, but like not the Lefebvre ones, and are wearing a lower calf strap, and there's a bunch of guys wearing 2X Pros with a lower calf strap too. So I have a feeling that just keeps the pad up a little higher. The one thing you have to remember about in the NHL as compared to beer leaguers is they do have pad height limits. So things like the Professor strap really help pull the strap up. That's also why a ton of goalies use behind the boot straps to hold the pad up higher. And this pad had a ton of slack in it. and same with the VE8 Pro Carbons I wore. So the pad sits higher on the skate, so you get more 5-hole coverage. Having this tighter will kind of hold that up higher on your leg and won't let it slide down as much. So I have a feeling that's one of the reasons why goalies are doing that. I would take it off because I don't need that, and I like wearing my pads a bit looser, but it is what it is. One of the other changes they did here is to kind of totally cover this right here. I'm a big fan of this design. The reason being, when you put this strap here, this strap is never on your leg. It's always like between this this foam. So it kind of gives you a nice little cushion between the two. I also like how this is right here too. That way this would stick on the normal one. It won't there. Bit of a wear guard. Allows the straps to slide as well if you do that. So I'm a fan of that. Just nice little details right there. I guess we'll open this up a bit to show the professor strap and everything. So if I can open this up. This is my favorite clip in all of hockey, or I should say goalie pads. This is how you do a professor strap. So I showed it off on Passau, where it's a nylon base and it's not elastic. Now you might say, well, this isn't elastic. You're right, but this is elastic. So this will stretch with your leg. Well, this will be nice and padded around your leg, around your calf. So yeah, this will be nice and padded around your calf. This is not cutting corners and not going budget. This is the proper way to do a professor strap. It's awesome. Again, it's stretchy and you can adjust it. The way this works too, it is magnetic. I like this magnetic buckle. It's the other ones that I didn't like. So the way this works, goes in there, snaps in place, you're good to go. Super easy to use. It's also protected behind like your cap, so shouldn't break. I really like this. And again, this stretches with your leg. So you can see there, so if you're pulling, it does pull a little bit, where the Passau, because it was a hard nylon that didn't stretch, every time you'd pull, the pad would go with you and would have no give. It was just, I hated it. It was kind of annoying. So anyways, knee, just have your, it's like their Nash. Again, I mentioned this on the VE8s. I don't know what Nash they use, but I feel like it wears out more, unless these are just worn more. But it's kind of weird there. I don't really like how this works, because it's annoying to get that like in there because it's so tight and it's rounded, but it works. It's all one piece. I always use the strap up there, because this one does most of the work anyways, just to keep my knee locked in place. An interesting thing about the Vaughn knee guards, or I should say knee blocks, is that this has a piece of carbon in it to keep its stiffness. I actually made a save with one of these knee blocks today when using these. I clearly missed closing the 5-hole totally, but I had no issue with the knee block. Everything was stable. Everything was really nice. It does have that kind of pro bump right there, as you can see, where the normal knee wing, then you have the little thing right there. So everything was really nice and stable with that. You can kind of see the carbon coming through with their Vaughn logo right there. It's a nice little attention to detail. So one of the things I kind of like to talk about a lot is pad core stiffness. Specifically, when you have a pad like this and you can bend the core. So as you can see, this core isn't super stiff, which eventually could lead to the pad being bent like that and not covering the 5-hole or sealing the ice as much as it should or did when new. One of my big complaints about the Vaughn VE8 was exactly that. It was one of the reasons why I bought an E-Flex 4, because CCM is a really stiff one. Again, this one isn't that stiff, but the seal is phenomenal, as you can see, unlike the Vaughn VE8. And that, I'm pretty sure, is due to this being all one piece. And this design is just really great and works really well. And these pads seal very, very well. Again, I was really, really impressed with this set. If I did not already purchase Optik 2 pads, I would buy these. The one thing that kind of hurts Vaughn's chances of me buying their gear is I get these too late in the life cycle. Now, this kind of only happens because I do reviews and stuff. This isn't a new pad anymore. Everyone's kind of seen it. The new pad's the VE9. So when I'm like, oh, I really love this, the Quickslide's amazing, it slides really great. Unless I have like a design I really, really want to do and I love the whole set, I don't really like the blocker that much. So unless I love the whole thing and really need it, I have a hard time buying something, and I can't think of a design I can do with this graphic because I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's too plain. that it doesn't jump out at me and like want me to jump on it. If I tried these, like when these first came out, I would have bought them to replace my Optik 1s. And then Optik 2s, I probably wouldn't have ended up buying Optik 2s. But I haven't worn the Optik 2s yet because they're not in. But I'm almost having that buyer's remorse because these pads are so good and I like them so much. Now, with that said, this isn't a stiff pad. I don't know how stiff they could get. Now, obviously, you could get another break in there or take that break out. I don't know how stiff you could get this pad overall. I'd be really curious to find out. But I don't think I'm going to jump in there and put that investment in myself to figure that out. Just because these are expensive and I'm kind of looking out into the future of what pads I want to buy. But this also doesn't have crazy hot rebounds either. A lot of companies, like a lot of times people talk about butterfly goalies or reaction goalies, stuff like that. I don't think that's kind of true for pads a lot of the times. Usually a pad works for like most people. The one thing, like Bauer doesn't have a soft pad anymore, and I don't think Vaughn really has a stiff pad. Because this isn't that stiff, and this is supposed to be their stiff one. This pad can work for anyone. Like the core of it too, like down here is, it's hard for me to do on camera, but this moves with your leg really good. This isn't like a box. This does not play like a box at all. So it doesn't play like the old Warriors I wore. It doesn't play like my Vapors or the Supremes. It moves with your leg very well. So it kind of has like that torsion flex to it that some people like. And like I said, I really, really like these pads. And they worked really, really well for me. I did go 0-5 with them, but they felt awesome on my leg, and I really liked wearing them. I would recommend these to people, like 100%. If you're looking for a pad that's not like, if you're not looking for a Bauer pad, basically, if you're not looking for the stiffest pad on the market with the hottest rebounds, this is a great option. Like this, the sliding on this is amazing, and the pad seals really good. And the one thing about Vaughn is that their non-pro carbon pad is still pretty impressive. It still has this Quickslide, which Bryant doesn't put on theirs. Bauer doesn't put all that material on theirs. They still use like an older material. And Speedskin, just forget about it. Like Vaughn puts this on their senior level pads, so the pros, not the pro carbons. So I would honestly even say check out the pros because they're pretty impressive for what they are. And these, like I said, these aren't that stiff, so there's not a huge difference there. Just don't get the pro blocker. Just pro carbon blocker is the way to go. I'll talk about that in the review for that. So that about sums it up for the Vaughn SLR 2 pro carbon pads. Like I said, very, very, very impressed. And if I didn't buy a set of Optik 2s, I would have bought these. So yeah, they're the best sliding pad I wore. I'm really, really impressed with them. So kudos to Vaughn. I liked the SLR ones. These are way better. Like the seal is so much better. Yeah, check them out for sure. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Remember to subscribe to me on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Helps me get gear so I can do reviews and make content like this. If you ever do buy a piece of gear because of one of my videos, please reach out to your manufacturer, let them know. Helps me get on their radar. So hopefully I can get like demo sets a little newer, not like a new pad, but like when it comes out, so I can talk about it right away and get content out like that right away. So thank you very much for watching. Check out the blocker review that will be in the description, and take it easy.